Hello everyone out there in YouTube land or Instagram land. Please like and subscribe and follow and all that kind of stuff. I own a production company in Los Angeles and we love making content from films to single scenes to skits to shorts and yes, even feature films. If you've got any questions about anything I talk about and anything we do, drop those ideas and comments below. Today's video is a little bit different. This is more of a thinking out loud kind of video. Recently-ish, my company sponsored a film competition called the Collaboration Filmmakers Challenge in 2025. Great competition, great contestants, and I ended up DPing a few films for this year's competition. My story I'm telling today doesn't really involve beginner filmmakers either. The people I worked with in the industry, they should have known better, but I'll get to that. Originally, I was going to direct something, and then I wasn't going to do anything at all. And then somehow I ended up DPing multiple projects for this year's Collaboration Filmmakers Challenge, and I made a very intentional decision. I was going to shoot and not be involved in post-production. For those who don't know me, I run the production company. I run a production company called Young Ones Studio, and most of what I do is indie work, semi-low budget. No one has millions of dollars. We just love making films. This is my full-time job, and this is all I do. Because of that, I become a bit of a jack of all trades. I direct, I write, I'm a DP, I edit, and I G&E, and yes, I can color. Mostly. My home studio is also heavily geared toward proper post-work with a calibrated environment, controlled lighting, a reference monitor, and the right interfaces for accurate grading. So here's what happened. I shot one of these films, a project called Rhubarb, and from the beginning, something felt a little bit off. The director was a bit frantic and frazzled and felt lost and couldn't communicate very well. The ideas were there, but nothing was coming across clearly or concisely. There was another creative involved, the writer, and that person had lots of strong, loud opinions, and more importantly, didn't really have any understanding of a cinematographer, which isn't such an issue, but I think it may come into play in a minute. One saving grace of the project, the AD was fantastic, very experienced, and early on there were signs this might be a tricky shoot, especially when the AD whispered to me early on, I think we need to control this shoot. Anyway, we got through production, and then I saw the final cut. They cut a story, yes, but the look and the sound were a nightmare. It hadn't even been converted to Rec 709, so right away, the image wasn't being viewed the way it was meant to be viewed. Color was way off. Aspect ratio was wrong. There were digital zooms going beyond the frame. Shots that were meant to be stabilized weren't, and even the audio mix was just a mess. They simply didn't know how to handle the footage or the audio. At one point, as the producer and co-director was trying to just take the project and run with it, they made a comment that the footage was very red and it needed to be fixed. All I could do in response was sigh at that one comment, as it told me everything. There was nothing to fix, as they literally had no idea how to even convert the footage or what they were looking at in the first place. This was raw footage from the URSA Cine LF, by the way. It looked like someone had just cranked up the tint and saturation on the raw files without any understanding of how to process and convert the image. It was an absolute mess. Think of it like this. You give someone a basic camera shooting MP4 and they can leave it on auto and it works. It's like a Toyota Prius. You get in, you drive, no problem. But the URSA Cine LF is like handing someone a Formula One car. They can sit in it, they can say it's a car, but they have no idea how to drive it and probably can't even start the thing. So, of course, I offered to help. I said, let me take a pass at the color, and I got a no. Someone had applied a generic LUT and they were happy with it. So I did something I've never had to do before. I grabbed still frames from their version and I grabbed the same frames, properly converted to 709 with a bit of a color tweak done to it. I sent this directly to the director and the director said, yes, color it. But here's the problem. The person pushing back was the writer, not a DP, not a colorist, not the director, no knowledge of the image pipeline, and yet somehow they had control over the final look. The ironic part, out of almost everyone there, I've probably made the most amount of films, trailers, pilots, and overall projects than anyone involved on that short film, aside from definitely the AD. Which makes what I'm discussing even more surprising. That's never happened to me before. I graded the film, my version was the only properly graded version, and it didn't screen. My version. They used the other version, which did screen. Now, to be fair, we did have a version of Rhubarb on our website that you can see. The version is all we could save, and we turned it into a usable short film, which is far from what they originally thought was acceptable. But for the competition screening, I actually had to take my name off the project. Again, this is something I've never, ever done before in any aspect of filmmaking. Actually, there was this one Lionsgate film a long time ago, different story. I took my name off the film because as a cinematographer, that image represents us, and I couldn't have my company associated with footage that looked like that. A project that was so shoddily finished. The acting in the story was great. The final visual and audible piece of art, though, was simply not even close to presentable. So my name came off the screener, especially since it screened at a fairly major venue in front of some rather important industry people, and we were sponsoring the whole competition. So this leads me to my question for you. How do you protect your work? If you create something or film something and you're not involved in post, how do you make sure it still looks the way it's supposed to look? When handing over footage that needs an extreme level of precision and know-how to work, what do you do when it doesn't get that care? What I learned from this is that pre-production, production, and post are three completely different worlds. Just because pre is smooth and production goes well doesn't mean post will, and any jumble of that. So I'm curious, if you're a DP, do you always supervise color? Do you lock it into your contract? Do you only work with people you fully trust? Or do you sometimes just hand it over and hope for the best? And one more thing, I've been thinking about this. If a project is going to give you a solid payday, this one was utterly free. No one gets paid for this competition. But if you're getting a solid payday and you already know the files are going to end up with an inexperienced colorist and editor and likely fall apart in post, do you just take the check and move on, knowing it might never be finished properly in post? Are you prepared to take your name off the project? At the end of the day, this is about one thing: visual integrity, artistic integrity. You shoot for a look, you light for a look, you expose for a look, and if that gets lost in post, what do you do? This is a genuine question, guys. If anyone's had this before, please comment below. Tell me if you have any nightmare stories. I would love to hear them. All right, thanks for listening. That's me on this one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll catch you in the next video. Remember, like, subscribe, follow, and I'll see you next time. See ya.